1990, actually, was the Gulf War. So I came back to Senegal. I was hoping to find a job as a physical therapist, because as we know, physical therapy is a needed profession in human health. Unfortunately, it was not possible. So I came to America to help my late religious leader, teacher, may Allah have mercy on his soul, Sheikh Hassan Sise, to establish a clinic in Senegal. But when I came, it did not happen for one reason or another. Then at that time, physical therapy was highly needed. So my employer at that time, in November of 1991, he hired me, and I remember the conversation we had. He asked me, "What is your dream?" I said, "Take over the practice from your hands." And he laughed and said, "You must be nuts." Well, in 1999, I took it over. And it was by the help of one of the sisters, Mary, who lives, actually, I think, she was in Ann Arbor. And when I told her about it, she helped me with another African-American banker to buy the practice from my previous boss. Since then, I've seen the difficulties. And I will go back a little bit. In 91, when I came, I didn't know a Senegalese in Ann Arbor. Those who were here were about 6 or 7 in Detroit. Then they told me about one of the African-American Muslim brothers at the masjid, told me about a brother who was just getting married. He said his name is also Abdullah. And I happened to go to the mosque, and while after prayers were coming out, and we saw each other. He said, "You must be Abdullah." I said, "You must be Abdullah." And that marriage that he just had married to was the mother to that boy. Salihu his father is the one that I met at that time. So we were the two, and it grew from there to 6, 7, and so on and so forth. So I later went on to Oakland University to get my graduate studies and ended up with a doctorate in physical therapy. And we established a Senegalese association, SAOM, that was from Ann Arbor area, and we expanded to Detroit. And it carried on. In the 2000s, that's when a wave of migrants of Senegalese started coming into this area. So we lived in that position, and we had only the Senegalese association groups that were working to later on religious groups and the Senegalese communities. Right now, I thank God that I'm employing, as they said about the immigrants. Let me tell you this quick little story. One of our employees, at one point while I was working with the previous boss, it's bigotry, as we said. She was bashing against the immigrants. And they came here, they this and they that. The boss happened to hear it. He's from Pakistan. He came up to her and told her, "Yes, because an immigrant is who gave you this job." So as immigrants, we're not here to take anybody's job. I'm proud to have my black job. That black job I have is employing Americans, and is employing, right now, 8 employee Americans that are getting paid. So as immigrants, we should be proud of ourselves. And to those of you who are young, I remember what my father told me when, may Allah have mercy on his soul, let the sky be the limit. And that's my story, and I think we all can do it. We are part of this country. As I said earlier in the beginning, this is the land of immigrant. Nobody owns it. It's only the Indians who are here, and they also moved. Allah told us in the Quran that the land of God is vast. If you are oppressed, if you're in need of something or another, you move. Those who are here moved because of either education or business or better income. That's what they're here for, and that's what you're here for as an immigrant. Whether you're here as an immigrant or the children or a child of an immigrant or descendants of the slaves that came into this country, you're still an immigrant. It's just those who are more recent and those who are old immigrants. So power to the immigrants.
So thank you for telling my story.
You're welcome.
So I moved to the United States in 1995. I had already had like a year and a half in marriage, and my husband and I decided we wanted a better life. From where we were in Jamaica, we wanted to start our family here or abroad. We were foreign-minded. And so my husband made the choice for the United States. So we came here. He came like 94 and I came 95. So we moved to New York and settled there for about 9 years, and then we moved to Texas for another opportunity, and also to make sure that our immigration workings were being done. Then from Texas, I worked in a corporation who transferred me to another state, which is North Carolina, because they wanted me to have my skill set replicated. So I was sent there to manage a team and to have that done. However, we separated, and then another company sought my skill set and brought me here to Michigan. So I came to Michigan in 2012, but faced several different barriers. So therefore, I could not move further with the skill set that they so badly sought after. So, but as immigrants, we always recreate ourselves, right? We find another way to do something else because we have to survive in this land. And so that's what we did. The sad part is, it took us 28 years. I'm only a green card holder just for a year and a half now. It took us 28 years for us to get our green card. And one thing I learned when I was growing up is we don't wait for things to happen. We make things happen. And I think that is not just a Jamaican thing. I think it's embedded in our African roots that we transform stuff. We don't wait for stuff. And so that's what happened for me here. And we will talk a little bit more about the stats and why immigrants make such a difference in the state of Michigan. But that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you.
So the question is about the shape of immigrants, right? And why they're here, why they're moving. I was probably the person on the panel that's moved here at the youngest. I think I was 14 when I moved to New York. But people move for three reasons. They move because their economy is bad, families that is. They move because they want to have a better life for their children, and they move because of the recent climate change or wars in your country. So those are the three reasons, I think, why the flow of immigration is happening. And, you know, for Black immigrants in Michigan, you know, in the 90s, I think the slide said there were not that many people moving here. In the 90s, about 9,000 immigrants, Black immigrants in particular. And then in the early 2000s, another 7,000. But in the last 10 years, it's about another 12,000, right? So you definitely see the shift, and you want to ask people in the room, how many people moved here just for a better opportunity for their families? And then how many moved here because your economy in your home country sucked? Right? So Hamid was mentioning the Sierra Leone dollar is 22 to 1 US now. In Guyana, it's 209 Guyanese dollars to 1 US. Right, so the economy is really bad around the country, which is why folks are seeing the United States as sort of their pie in the sky. And when they get here, it's a whole other next question we'll get to, but I'll just leave it there.
That actually is the next question. So I wanted to really talk about the economic contributions and workforce participation. This question is for everyone, but Imam and God dog it, daddy. I want to say Hamid, but it's like, that's foreign to me. But as small business owners, as a child, in 1986, 85, you had a nightclub, small business owner, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the unique skills and backgrounds or influence that you saw Black immigrants, whether recent or not, contribute to the state's economy during that time. And then we'll transfer it over.
Well, like you said, in 1985, while attending school, I also had opportunity to get a job at Blvck Implant. And I worked over there up to 30 years. But in 1977, when I entered the workforce, while we were students, we were going from house to house. Call Abdul, call Mohammed, who is having a party. Then all of us went over there until I look at it when I got a job at Blvck Implant. Started having some money, and then I bought some sets that I became the first DJ right here in Detroit. And then each household, when we were having the weekend party, I would DJ. Then I look at it, the immigrant population start growing. And I decided for us to have a nightclub. I talked to almost every one of us at that time, but everyone were not economically stable. But I used the opportunity because I started having some few bucks in my hand. So I bought a set, and then there was a building on Plymouth Road, 1925 Plymouth Road, between Southfield and Evergreen. That was the first African nightclub. And I look at the building. There was a small area where they wrote the number to call. While I was going to work, I'd make a U-turn. I got the number, and that I called the owner. It was an Italian man, and he said he was selling the building, including the liquor license. But I told him he has to put the liquor license in escrow, and I bought the building on rental basis every month, $1,000. The first 3 months, I was just paying him. Before going to work, I was on night shift. I will go enter the building, I look at it, laugh to myself. I say, yeah. And then the building start picking dust and all that. I said, well, I have to do something. I rally again to get some of the African friends, Nigerians, Sierra Leoneans, Liberians. But everyone was hesitating to join, to come on board. Then I decided to go solo. So the man decided, he said, okay, you do not have the money. We start on a rental basis. Every month, $1,000, I was just dropping in. Then after a few months, I realized, I said, if it takes me 1 year, I would have given this man 12,000. And then some other friends say, man, you're doing a good job. But what I did to help the African community, from Senegalese, Liberians, Nigerians, Ghana, including Sierra Leone, I let each organization came and utilize that building for free to raise awareness and also to help the organization to grow. And then after 2-3, I have few bucks, and I was pay the Italian money, so I didn't feel it that much. Then after a few months, each organization, even the Cameroonians, their group out of Sierra Africa, they bought a building that also they were, when immigrants were coming from Cameroon, they were housing those immigrants, the Africans who were coming. So in few years, 5 years I've been paying on rental basis, then 60,000 gone. I said, I have to renegotiate. So the man said, okay. And then I raised money. I got a Ghanaian guy came, a Liberian guy came. We raised money, we put money down on the building, including the liquor license, then we turned it to a nightclub. But my system was a little bit tedious and long. Just consider 5 years, you've already got 60,000 down the drain. So what's the lesson here? You have to vision where you want to take yourself or your group. You have to fellowship, you have to talk with each other. Most of us, when we come to the table, we will argue to the ground. We will talk so much negative about each other. We cannot do that. Look ahead, look into the future, and see what you have to do for the group. It will be very, very helpful. So the Congolese were also Sierra Leoneans, a lot of people. You know, we come together as one, and I will definitely tell you that out of Sierra Africa made all the immigrants in Michigan or Detroit especially to grow. I helped the Caribbean because they also helped me. The Caribbeans were helping me again to pay the bills. I befriended a group called Universal Expression. Also, they raised a lot of money. So the moral of this story I'm trying to share with you, you have to expand beyond your comfort zone, because I'm an African first, and I see the part that I've played in this community to grow. And there are lots and lots of friends who were asking me, how did I do it, you know, to turn the organization around. So I leave there for now.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Yep. So the question is about economics. So what have you done, or how can you expand on bettering the economic conditions of Black migrants in Detroit, Michigan, or globally?
Okay, I'll start with just when I first came into this country, I said to myself, I set goals. As a person, you have to set goals. My first goal was to get a driver's license, because Michigan, you don't go anywhere without a driver's license. And I was only holding a H-1B visa, a touristic visa. So I didn't even care about anything else because I knew I was there for a minute. So I asked myself to get my driver's license, and then I will get my license as a physical therapist, and I will get my green card. And then I will own a business, and I will own a house. And God blessed me, within 10 years, I was able to do all of that. So there was nothing that stopped me because I had a plan in my head. This is what I wanted, and this is what I wanted to go. And I believe in God that He will bless anything I touch if I put my mind into it. As an immigrant, when you come to this country, that's what you need to come for. You need to come to a place because you've traveled all this distance. You spent so much money. And especially those who are just new arrival, they went through danger zones to make it into here. So when you come, you have to have a goal. You didn't come to this country to party. You didn't come to anywhere. You don't go anywhere to party. You go somewhere to be something or to do something. So since I built my house in 1996, until now, I've seen so many Senegalese, bless their souls, build or buy their own homes. When we came here, there were just a few of us who had degrees. Most of the immigrants came here and work as laborers, or they have something they will sell, be in the market. But how many of our children now have graduated from colleges? How many of our children now have had businesses? If this organization, this gathering that we have here is by another person who had a dream, Dr. Saidi, she came here as an immigrant. She realizes that the immigrants need some type of assistance. What can I do? How can I impact them? How can I impact their life? Impacting the life of the immigrants impacts the progress of this country. Because if these immigrants get to school, graduate, they will work and they will pay taxes. If they open businesses, they will pay taxes. They will employ people who pay taxes. If they buy homes, they will pay taxes. And if they pay these taxes, that's what runs this country. So that's how immigrants think, and that's how we all are thinking about. And that's why sometimes when they say the immigrants are coming to take our jobs, they only take your jobs if you're lazy. But if you are a decent person who wants to keep your job, they don't take your job. They don't come to take your job. They come to create their job. They come to get a job, not to take a job from nobody. So that is the mindset of an immigrant. That is the mindset of the community of Senegalese that I know, and I see it in our compatriot Africans. Like the brother mentioned, when we came here, we rented his place. I remember we organized the Senegalese independence at his place, at his club. But right now, I remember one story, a brother from a Muslim brother who came into one of our events, and he said, all other communities have something that they leave behind, except the Senegambian community. Well, we have a community center, a building we bought outright with cash. We have another community center also bought in cash by the two organizations of the Senegalese in this state, in the city of Detroit. The Tijani community have a Zawiya, which can house 350 people. The Khadim Rasul Center is in existence, which can also host over 300 people in the building. This is how the immigrants think. They come in and they participate and they put forth their efforts. And God blesses them to carry on and be successful. So we thank Sister Saidi for efforts that she is doing in assisting these new arrivals and those in her group who are helping the new arrival in achieving the goal that everybody is running after, which is the American dream.
Thank you for that. So as we, okay. Clap. As we wrap up, I wanted to hear from Alcina and Dr. Tabari. So let's talk about the vision for the future, right? So looking forward, what is your vision, or can you share a vision for an inclusive Michigan that supports Black immigrants. What does that look like? And what are the key steps to get there?
So that already started. This is with the ABISA, the Caribbean Community Service Center, the JAM, Jamaica Association of Michigan, and all those. Those have already started. So I was going to just share briefly how I got involved. So I came here in 2012. In the March of 2013, I was in Macy's looking for shoes. And a young lady was standing there, and I heard her accent. We started talking, and she told me about JAM. The beautiful thing is God blessed me with a special needs child. So what was starting to create inside of me and cultivate inside of me is, how can I advocate for others, right? Because I have to advocate for him. So then that's what got molded. And so when I met her, I got involved with JAM, and then I met Sophia, and then Sophia got me involved with Sadie, and that's how we do it. So when we collaborate our thought process, when we move things together, we get so much more done. One of our fights as immigrants is the whole situation of no driver's license for undocumented immigrants in Michigan. That's a dignity matter that people are struggling with right now. So we have to be in the trenches and the fight to make sure that gets changed, and we move these things along by talking to the heads that be, the government officials that we put in.
I want to say a couple of things first about the economy. So we have this thing that we have been trying to retrain our brains into saying our economy instead of the economy. Because when you say the economy, it's like over there, it's someone else's thing. When you say our economy, we have a sense of belonging, like this economy belongs to us. We are building this economy. And for immigrants in Michigan, $1.5 billion in state and local taxes you pay, $4 billion in federal taxes. And so you've got about 10, 12, 14 billion dollars left over for spending. So you have a lot of power in the economy. So I just want to acknowledge that, right? It's our economy. And I want to just really emphasize the inclusiveness of Michigan has to do with the things that were already mentioned: persistence, having a plan, and lastly for me is having an intrinsic desire to do better for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your culture. You have to have that, right? And this is grounds from my own dissertation. When I was in my doctoral program, my dissertation, I wanted to find the positives that were helping Black folks, not the negatives or the thing that was keeping us down, right? So I specifically talked to Black men in college as to what are the things that are making you succeed. I wanted to look at success metrics because there's so much written on why we fail. Mm-hmm. And and I've got a son and brothers, so it was me search, right? So I talked to Black men in particular, and, they have, additional funding and student support and all of this stuff, right? But the number one thing for them was intrinsic. I had to want it for me, for my daughter, for my son, for my mother, for my community. I was the only one in the hood that made it to college, right? It had to be intrinsic. So if you all don't feel that intrinsic need personally to say, I have to do this for me, my family, my community, then we're just at another conference every year talking about numbers. You have to want it in order for us to really move the needle.
Thank you.
So as we wrap, because you don't have to give me that warning. I'm on it. So I would like to ask everyone, in terms of your thoughts, your recommendations, like you've heard everyone's story. What would you like to see within the next year? If Ibiza has this conference next year, what are some of the things that you would have liked to have done, succeeded? What would be success between 2024, and 2025? And anyone can answer this question.
Let me go first. The way I look at it is, like I said earlier, networking is very important. For me, I've involved in everything in the democratic process here. I'm a staunch Democrat. I've done polling, I've done door-to-door campaign, I've done telephone, you name it, all across the United States. And I've worked in the precincts, I do not know how many times, vote, challenger, you name it, I've done it all. I look at it this way. When you come, you look at, you will know the people who are active. This organization, I'm impressed with Sadie and all the other staff who are working together with her. It is very important for all of us who have come to participate in the democratic process in this country. Like my landed brother said, we are in a country of immigrants, a country of laws. We have to obey every law. Knock on wood, my license is clean because I obey every turn, every stop and all that, you know. And I'm not shy to talk to anyone. I talk to you straight face. I'm not in any drug. I don't drink or smoke. I can talk to anybody I want to, but tell you the way I grew up in this country and look at in the community and see who have been here long and get some few tips as to how to survive in this country. There are a whole lot of people who can give you a helping hand to survive in this country. There are lots and lots of opportunity in this country that you can benefit from. I've been a taxi driver, I sold even, you name it, I've done it before I went to the automobile. From working on the line to supervisor, help make some recommendation to change, in assembly the cars. I mean, I'm not sharing this with people. I want to go and do something in Sierra Leone, but Sierra Leone, they are not serious yet. What we can do, But that's all I have to say. There are a lot of bright minds among all of us here that you can do networking. Share. Don't shy. Don't, bashful. Talk to people. You'll be amazed the tips that you get from each one of us. And I want to thank each and every one of you that helped to put this program together here on the right path. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, because Hamid Agali, he, you know what I'm saying? He can talk. I grew up with this man. Yes. So last comment, then we're going to wrap up.
So one of the things I would want to see is the barrier. One of the biggest barriers are the driver's license for all. That is a fight for me. It changed my life based on experiences that I've had facing for not having driver's driver's license. So that is one thing I would want to see change in the next year. We have been fighting, and I'm thinking it's close to 10 years now, we've been fighting for that. So those of us who having a driver's license does improve the economy in Michigan. It will improve it, because they're going to get more monies. And those monies are going to create to have more resources, not only for immigrants, but also for everyone here in the state of Michigan. So I think that is one of the things that I would like to see done. But let me just plug this piece in. I can't vote, so find your people who can vote. Driver's license for all is on the ballot. You need to make sure you have the people in there who are going to be making the changes, not saying they're going to make the change, but keep them accountable to that change. Promise.
I asked for 1 minute.
I know, I got a minute after you. Go ahead.
Because I think it's very important that the whole, as we see it, this was a very well organized, but it is lacking something, the youth. We need to have a lot more of the youth fill up this building. We talked about the first generation. We've been here first. Our children. I have 3 grown children. None of them is here. And there are so many of these youth that could be here and benefit from these experiences that we're sharing. Because they are the ones that are carrying on. Because if we don't have them hear these messages and pass it along, the messages or these things we have to share will die with us. I have one example is when I went to Singapore to give a talk there, I found the organization that was done, it was done only by youth. The average age was 27. And the auditorium we have was 3 to 4 times bigger than this, and it was full. And they all paid $50 a person to come and listen to it.
Thank you. So I just want to name, because I believe in being authentic. I just want to name that sitting here, I felt like I heard a lot of respectability politics, and I just want to name that there's definitely long-rooted immigrants in Michigan, as they are in many of the cities across the country. And there is a disconnect from the youth because of what we find respectability politics, where the older immigrants or the older generation feel like, we've done this and we did this and we don't do this and, we abide by the rules, and, it becomes this very we're doing all these things right. It's sort of like, the Asian American syndrome, where the Asian are the perfect immigrants and everybody else is just trash. So it sort of reminds me of that. So I just want to call that in, because we can't reach the youth if we come at it in this respectability politics way, as we are the older generation and we know better. So I just want to call that in. I also want to say that we are all Black people in the United States. We get here, we're seen as Black. So we have to build across the aisle, across generations. We have to. We cannot have this separate situation happening, because we will always stay at the bottom if that's the case, in our little corners. And lastly, one of the barriers to belonging in Michigan, it's something that people don't think about, but the Iman mentioned, is the limitations to professional licensing, for example, right? That process is a mess. So the Congress people that were in here earlier, I would say get at them, figure out what can they do to streamline professional licensing. Folks are coming in from other countries with they're licensed to be architects or this or that, and they've got to take 600 tests to be a barber. They've got to take 3 hours to be a police officer. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So that is one thing that I see as a big barrier here, that the professional licensing process is not streamlined. So I just wanted to leave you with that one concrete thing to follow up on, and the rest of it is just being aware of, our connections.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The conversation does not end here. Please, throughout the day, if you see someone, if you have a question, don't be shy to raise a question. So, Sophia.
Thank you. In Jamaica, they would say, clap them up, clap them up. Thank the guests so much and this beautiful moderator for the conversation that we just had. It's time for us to take a break. Get up, stretch, go grab some coffee, get some snacks. Be back here in 15 minutes. 1-5. We're a little bit behind time, but you know brown skin people, that's how we roll. So make sure you're back here in 15 minutes or you're gonna miss the next conversation.
Did it help?
Oh, yes, girl. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Yeah, because the wait, my laptop is the wait.
Setup is different. Yeah. Hers is probably. Yeah, it works much better. Thank you.
Everyone, good afternoon. Dr. Sadie, it's an honor to be here. My name is Papa Jata, and I am actually the Consul General of Senegal in interim. Just 2 months ago, my boss left our office, and I'm in charge now. But I live here. I don't have the experience you got, 40 years, 24. I'm just living here for 4 years, but I have an opportunity to travel to go to some state, and I discover many diversity in the U.S. And it's an honor here to be here to discuss about migration, especially, and policy, because we need to talk, we need to exchange, and to have more understanding each other. Thank you, and we think that we're gonna have a nice and great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A few years ago, say about 10 years ago, when I speak in public about the immigrant communities in Maine, specifically African and other Black immigrants, I used to say that I have everybody's phone number, their addresses, and their social security number. Because there's not many of us, we know each other. If I'm standing at Times Square and there's an immigrant, Black immigrant from Maine, if I raise my head, I can pinpoint and say this person is from Maine and I know where they're coming from. Now, if you put me in a room with 10 or 12 African or any Black immigrant in Maine, I will hardly know 5 of them, which means that the numbers are growing as it was shown earlier. My question to you is, and Honorable Consular and my sister here, I will ask you 2 different sides of the same question. For you, what do you think is going on? What are the opportunities, and what are the challenges?
Thank you. I always say that one thing we ought to do is to acknowledge the work that was done by African American brothers and sisters to allow us to be here in such larger numbers. It's the work that they have done to really make sure that there is diversity, equity in the immigration system, really, that opened the doors to people who are not just from Norway or Ireland. And so we do want to acknowledge that and recognize that. And I think there is that. And I think also the fact that, as an example, the Midwest, you're talking about Maine, a lot of these places, these states are experiencing a decrease in population. And the people who are in charge of the economy, they know exactly what they need in order to succeed. So whether or not they like it or not, they recognize that there is a need to bring in fresh blood and to bring in people. Michigan is one of the states that is facing that issue the most among most people. As a matter of fact, the governor of Michigan last year at the Mackinac Policy Conference convened a council to help grow the population in Michigan. And there was a lot of discussion. There were 4 subgroups doing that. I was fortunate enough and privileged enough to actually co-lead the subgroup, the working group on infrastructures and placemaking with someone across the aisle, which is former Secretary of State Terry Land. And the issue is real. And if Michigan doesn't do something to start attracting population, we'll still become really a state that used to be and no longer is. And that impacts so many different parts in the country, so many parts of the economy. You look at higher education. There are 14 public universities in Michigan. They were built when everybody wanted to come to Michigan to work in the automotive industry, to do all of that. And now these universities, in 5-10 years, there won't be 14 of them because we won't have enough people to really do that and to really go to to encourage, to go through the system. And so I think a lot of people are recognizing that and recognizing where immigrants are coming from, and then opening the doors to make sure that the economy doesn't become stagnant. At the same time, you have also the challenges of other groups, because I think also one of the things immigrants, and I see that in my generation and my children's generation. When you come here, you come from a country that's majority, black. We have our problems, but there are some issues we don't have. We don't feel restricted. We don't have the restraint that people have, because when I teach my child, my son, and I tell him, you be careful because of this, that can happen to you, the police, we don't have this. And so we're more likely to take risk and to not even think of the challenges. And when you don't think of it, sometimes that allows you to also be more innovative and more risk-taking. You take risks. And so I think that's also one of the things that immigration also brings, is that innovation. It's also the sense of, I can do it. And therefore, before you know it, we're doing it. Right? And so, but at the same time, the challenges are people who used to be in the manufacturing industry, in the mining industry, and they're looking at the economy that is changing, and then they're looking at they're losing their job, they're losing their health, they're losing their health care, the education is not allowing them to really be part of the service economy. And so you have a backlash, and then, of course, when the backlash, and then you have this upstick of billionaires now in this country compared to other people. So what they do, they distract us. So they talk about immigrants taking the black job, taking the Mexican, all of that. But this is a way to make sure that we don't coalesce, because they know we go better in number. When we actually work together, we're a mighty force. So let's try and sow division. And I think it's really up to us to understand that we have to be, nobody can ask us to be a monolithic, group. But when it comes to fighting for our rights and our, but that also comes with obligations. And I think that's one of the things we need to do, is to prepare our newly, our new Americans and new people who come in, new migrants, to understand this is a land of opportunities. We have duties, but you have responsibilities. And I think that's really a lot of that. The more we get involved, the more people will have to get used to us. We're not going anywhere. And so, right?
You're right, we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere, and it's our space. It is our space.
Honorable Diata, I have like I said, I'm going to ask you a flip question. Obviously, from the data that we saw earlier, and from what we know, in the next, I think it's 2030 or 2050, 1 out of every 5 people that walk on Earth will be African. And my question for you as a diplomat, a consular, being here is, how can we, and you are going to speak to those of us who are here, because you said that you don't live here, you're just here for work. So how can we, from where you are sitting, as someone who is here representing, and I'm going to single-handedly make you the representative of all of the black countries whose people are here, what can we do, those of us who are here, who are in a position of authority, who are in the community, who have some clout that can bring people together like we are doing here? What can we do to make sure that the benefit of us being here does not just stay here, but also impact back home formally, not through us sending money on our phones, but what can we do to get our people power here through government to benefit the people who are back home?
Thank you for this question. I just want to make a quick link. Like for the first panel we heard just a few minutes ago, and we talk about migration. If you see what's different histories of the other people coming just here, they have the link between economic, education, and other things. We cannot take that migration off take up this subject. That's why it's important. Yes, we live in New York, but we are in charge of all the U.S. Senegalese citizens who live in the U.S. And the first things, like I said to Ms. Kim, is to have database is important, and our work is first to protect these people to get benefit where they live, but to be protected as well administratively, if I can tell like this. And for that, we need first to know how many people. You say that just in a minute, like in the past, when you go in Times Square and you see someone, you can say, oh, this is a Portland man, or he come from Ghana. But now we have another step. When people in Africa, especially in Senegal, come here, it's just many years ago, it was about, yeah, I'm graduating in my country and I go to Europe or I go to US to improve or have more skills about university. But now it's another step. People trying to come, people trying to go, people trying to move because socially or economically they don't have enough strength or enough things to stay. And the question is very important. I know that Senegal make a link between U.S. and we have a partnership, a solid partnership between U.S. and Senegal, but it's important to make a contribution with the diaspora. The other thing is our diaspora here is very diverse. But we have one issue is how to take all this experience, like some who work in the university or those who work who own the business, to work together to try not to send money to our country, not to send money only to family, but to build this economic powership to help our development policy in Senegal. We have these issues, but I know that Senegal, like the new authorities said, and the vision we have is for the world to create maybe a bank. We can create a bank diaspora who all of this money can, transfer and be a power, an economic power to help some of the policy. But all these things can be usefully done when we got the opportunity to be here together, to work together, and to be socially really, open to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you. What are some of the cultural experiences or cultural contribution of Black migrants to the American mainstream culture?
It's funny you ask, talking about our contribution. Not long ago, there was a media in Detroit who called and they wanted to speak to a couple of Haitians because of the accusations from the presidential candidate we just mentioned earlier. And they wanted to know what are your contributions? How do you feel as an immigrant? And I started talking about, I think sometimes we forget about, we don't know our history, and we forget about the trend that has been all over, the years. I said, Haitians, I don't feel like I'm taking space from another person. I feel like I am home and I have a right to be here. Because if you go to Savannah, Georgia, what you will see is a monument that was erected for the Haitian soldiers, people who came from Haiti to fight in the independence war for America to become independent. And so I think we don't know enough about all of these things, and so therefore it's easy for people to tell us, what have you contributed? We've been contributing. This country, Africans, brothers and sisters were brought here, and they're part of the diaspora, and that free labor really helped to make America what the economic power that it is today. And so we want to acknowledge that and also understand. But I also want everybody to say that nothing from the past is going to impact people today or really tell them, well, they did that 100 years ago, therefore. So this needs to continue. And so what we have to do is to make sure that we understand and we get engaged into what is happening in this country. I think people talk about presidential, all the elections, but I'm in transportation, and so we say usually that mayors are the first doctors in America because the vision they have for their cities, help contribute to the well-being, of people who live there. So I think sometimes we look for the big thing. When I came here, when I started having children, I realized, oh my gosh, I can't just not sit there and not do something. So I got involved with the PTA. I went to every single meeting. So don't think you have to wait for this big opportunity to come. Be at the Lord, because that's really what impacts you every day. And then as you grow, then you have more people that are in there and you can help, and everybody has a place, right? And so it doesn't it's not on one of us to do everything, but I can be here, and then, Mr. Ali can be the honorable councilman, in Portland, but we have to make sure that we have that zippered relationship, where we are integrated into all facets. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the big one. It doesn't necessarily say you have to have a PhD. It doesn't necessarily, because when you're fighting for your children, you're fighting for everybody else's children that look like you. And so, that's that's part of what we can bring. And that's really how I started doing a lot of things in this country. I started at that level, and then, was able to be part. And then don't forget, don't be shy about engaging, because if you're not at the table, very often your needs are not going to be met because no one at the table understands what you need.
That is true.
And so you can't really expect people to take care of your needs when you're not there. And so you have to make the time to engage and to be a part of this and contribute. And what you have to do is to do what Dr. Sadie is doing, which is to equip the newcomers with the tools they need to continue that contribution, so that we never accused to just being here as takers. We are not. And so, but that's also on us.
It seems like you know how to read brains. Anytime I'm thinking of the next question, then you already, yeah. Honorable Diata, these days here in the U.S., we hear people throw around the word diaspora. I wanted to speak about two things. One is there are a lot of people who, when they hear that you are a counselor, counselor as in a diplomat, they just know that you represent whichever country you are coming from here. Can you speak to what do diplomats do? Are you here because of those of us who are from Senegal, or are you here to represent just the interest of the government back home? That is one part of your question. The other part is, I want you to speak specifically, what are you African governments doing amongst yourself to connect with the governments in the diaspora? Our brothers and sisters who were forcibly removed and found themselves somewhere and established their own countries, like Haiti and many other countries in the Caribbean. Is there something that African governments are doing to connect with that, to broaden the collective power of our people? I don't know if it's too complicated.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Just you can remind me the first question you were.
The first
talking
question
about.
is,
It's about.
tell me what diplomats do.
All right. As a diplomat, I know that we have spatially a different agreement, different agreement on which we base and we work. The first is to respect all the international law about the convention, the diplomatic convention, the consular convention, and the other things is to represent first our country, because a diplomat, when we send you all in one country, you represent directly the president. It's about you have very big responsibility when you go there. But other things is when we go at the consular level, the thing is to work directly with the community. And like I said, just a few minutes, is important to protect them. But protect them like respecting the law in the country in which they live, but as well to trying to integrate them in the system. That's what we did spatially, and that's why it's very important to be here, because, you know, like Dr. Sadie is part of this, and he did a great job in Michigan. We have all the Senegalese community or organization in other states, and they did as well the same. And it's important to link with them and to trying to, you know, a part of community protection to help them administration level. Yeah, it's not about just to represent, it's about to integrate as well the community in the countries they live and grab the opportunity. I all the time talk to this organization, stop only doing assistance. You know why? Because I say that the African community, sometimes we, especially the Senegalese, when we work in an area, we have sometimes the fact of being just together, just in our side. And I said, stop doing assistance. It's important to go, to learn, to integrate the system, to go to the level of institutional, to go to the city, to see how this powerful YAF, African, Senegalese especially, can integrate this administration. Because when we are somewhere and decisions are taken without you, this decision sometimes can be taken against you. That's why it's important to our Senegalese community, to our African community, to be in the system. And for that, we not need only to come and, doing like, I have a small job, I have something to send in Senegal, or I have something to send in Africa, in other parts. That's good. No, you need to.
What are you doing, like, in terms of African governments? What are we doing to integrate or connect with the African governments in African diaspora? My sister here is from Haiti, and Dr. Tabiwi is from, is it Barbados? Guyana or Barbados. There are some countries in the Caribbean that is led by descendants of enslaved Africans or Africans that have never been colonized. Is Africa as a continent doing something to connect with those ones? Because when we work together, it increases the power that we have at a global level.
Yeah, for that, I know that the Ghanaian, the Nigerian as well is going on this very, very quick, like they trying to, trying to connect. And these people who their ancestry come from Ghana or Nigeria, I know that the Senegalese people are working on that as well. And the first step is to invite them, because I know that just a few months ago we're trying to go with them, and it was in September 2023, first step to go with them to visit the country, to know really the story. The other step is at the government level. I know that they have facility when they come and they want to invest, when they come and they want to do something, it can be very easy for them to step by step be accompanied by the government. But it's a work. It's usually be adapt. It's usually can be reflect or trying to do more about that. We don't have as well a special way to them, but we invite them, we're trying to help them, and when they want to invest as well, we're doing facility to them. But I know that the new vision of our authority is as well to improve this fact, to helping them to go back in Senegal.
You mentioned something in your previous question, the answer, about how it is important for people to get together. If I am new to Detroit and I just arrived and I want to get involved in education, in community organizing, maybe when I was living in Ghana, that is what I do, and I got here and I want to do that. Two. One is, what can I do? And the other one is for people who are here, who want to support other people that arrive to get involved in their communities. What do you think they should do, and how do you think they can get to do that?
I have to really think this one through because, when I came 40 years ago, they were definitely, but I think, though, Dr. Sadie, there is also the Haitian Network Group of Detroit, who is also getting grant from the Michigan government, from the Governor Whitmer's administration, to help integrate the newcomers into society. There is work that also Sophia is doing with the Caribbean community. I would first of all start by knowing what are the organizations that are serving me, right? That's the first thing you do. I look for, when you have kids, it's easier. But you don't have kids, depending on what your faith community is, find a church, find a place where you can go worship, because that's where you start making friends, right? You start talking to people. It's not like most of us, I remember, I always say that when I started here, I worked as a cook in a restaurant. Okay, because at the time, that's my sister-in-law, she was working there, she was going to school, she needed somebody to replace her. I did that. But guess what? That was about over 40 years ago. The people that I met in that restaurant, they're friends to this day. And they're people who are very influential. So you do that networking, you make sure that people, when they meet you, they remember you for the good things, right? You collaborate with people, you're kind, you respect people, but you ask in return that they respect you, because that's very important to also be able to stand up for yourself and to do what it is. So I think those are the places where you can start, right? And then when you hear about people asking for volunteers, then you go and do that. You go volunteer because you meet other people. And very often we don't have that philanthropic very often and ideas of foundations in our home countries as much. And so we don't know about that, but we don't realize it's in volunteering that sometimes we find opportunities and we meet other people. And so, once I started going to PTA from there, I started serving on other things. The next thing I knew, somebody was asking me to run for office, but I'm not, a person who can be a politician because I'm a little bit too expressive. My face says it all, so I cannot do this.
I think you are a good politician. You should run for office.
But those are the type of things, and so I've never said no to meeting someone because I said that's the seed I plant. I don't know where it's going to go, but that doesn't matter. I meet somebody else. I have a chance to enrich my own experience by having interaction with the person I never knew. So I started doing that. I do a lot, and it's the volunteering, the philanthropic. And another thing also that we're very afraid of, and that's also because of the background. Very often we come from countries where we have dictatorship, we pursued for political beliefs, and so we're afraid of getting in the fray of the political part. But me, when I came home from Haiti, and at the time they were still under the Duvalier, and I'm like, are you kidding? I couldn't do it back then. I'm going to do it here. And there is no way somebody's going to keep me from being a part of that. And that's how I started. I'm like, I have a voice. Yeah, you don't want to give me a voice and tell me not to use it. I can't do that. And so that's kind of how I started, and I think that has helped because I have been in, with friends, and one of the things I have to say to also support what, Consular,
yeah.
Consultant you mentioned, is that get out of your immediate community. Because one of the things that really helped me, when I left Haiti, I didn't go to New York, I didn't go to Miami. I went to Lansing, Michigan. There were not a lot of Haitians, so I had to make other friends. And in doing that, I learned how this country works. And I know how to be relevant in it and how to really integrate. Mm-hmm. And I think I recommend that, because there is always Sunday dinner with everybody, the family and your community. But the other days, try to reach out to others.
Thank you. Honorable Diata, I have a follow-up question. I am sure if you ask a couple of African immigrants who are here in the U.S., like, hey, how easy it is to get in touch with your embassy here, right? Most of them will say, oh my goodness, those guys, it's difficult to get them. Whether you are asking for a visa or you want to do a new passport, I will tell you a story. In the middle of the pandemic, somebody applied for a visa to go to Ghana. She paid, if there's any Ghanaian ambassador here, I'm sorry. She paid an expedite service and she didn't get it. And then I'm sitting in Portland, Maine. This woman is in California. She sent me a message on social media that she needs to talk to me immediately. I don't know if she think I work for the embassy. And I did, actually, I don't know why, but I reached out to her and she said, listen, I already purchased my plane ticket. I'm leaving on Monday. Monday is a holiday. And the embassy don't work on Fridays. Today is Wednesday. They still have not sent me my stuff. I paid the money in advance. This woman is not a Ghanaian, she's a nurse. She wants to go and volunteer in Ghana. And I've heard that from other African residents in this country. What are the challenges that African diplomats are facing here in the U.S., and what can we do to make your job easy so that when we send our passports, you give us the visa immediately?
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I apologize for being late.
No worries.
My son has French on Saturday.
All right. I would just like to say that we face about different, like you said, different goal about that. You know, sometimes the first thing, like if I take the Senegalese experience, we're in New York and we're in charge of 50 states. You imagine how, if I want like to do a passport for one Senegalese citizen who is in California, it looks like I take a plane and I go back to Senegal. It's like 5-6 hours. That's why it's important to make a link together with, the first step is to invite our community to, when we go somewhere, when we live somewhere, go to see the Senegalese association who is there. Because through the Senegalese association, we got the information like, okay, Mr. Jata, he's come from Senegal, he arrived here at this time, and he's here for that. The other thing is, after that, when we grab all this information, we have a database on which, okay, that one is going to take for 3 months. Okay, we just need to register them on our database. The other one is going to take for long because he's a student, because he come here to see the family, and we give them the consular card. That's the first step. The other thing is, yes, what we do at the consulate is to go maybe every 3 weeks somewhere, to avoid them, like you said, the next experience to send your passport for a visa or to send your document and we didn't got it. We go over there, like just 2 months ago, we were here in Michigan with Abisa to helping Senegalese people to get their ID or to get their Senegalese passport. That's just to make a link for me between us and our community or our organization to trying to get the same comprehend the same understanding about what we do, to avoid sending documents and to go directly sometime to see the community and work with them for the passport and for the ID and helping them. Yes, we have some kids born here, Senegalese, they want to document, we can sign it directly here, and we did that for helping our community. It's not enough, I know, but it's just sometimes little action to throw the community.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you, sister, but I have what about Americans, our sisters and brothers who are African Americans who want to go visit, and this is general all of Africa. When are you guys going to transition to e-visa?
Wow.
So that woman from California don't find me on social media and ask me for her passport.
Okay, but you know, when you are American, you don't need a visa to go to Senegal. That's the.
Tell me on that.
When you are a citizen, American citizen, you don't need a visa. But there are sometimes some of them who live here who got another type of passport. It's different. It's different because each of them is on different categories.
Yeah.
And for them, sometimes you can go and take a arrival visa. Sometimes you need to have letters, authorization from our authority. Sometimes you can come and directly get the visa. It's just different types, and we work on it to get more things for them.
Thank you. Oh. Can I say that again? Oh, thank you. But then we cannot just leave without introducing our sister. Can you introduce yourself and wrap us up?
Okay, just 2 minutes. My name is Faustina Mara Winnemay. I was recently like an immigrant to Senegal. I moved to Senegal about 3 years ago, and I was able to gain my permanent residency as an American in Senegal. And I also got my import and my export license in Senegal and my business license in Senegal, and we were able to build a business called the Detroit Boutique, which gave entrepreneurs here the opportunity to present their products in Senegal and vice versa. So to build that bridge between the Black American and the African community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. When I was asking the question about how can we benefit both sides, that is a good example. You should have been here earlier, man.
I was trying to thank her for being an example for that.
Yeah, I was telling Sadie like I needed to be further back because my son, he's studying French. So since we returned to America, I have him in private French classes, and he has them every Saturday morning. So that's why I'm running late.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you folks so much for your time. Great conversation. Make sure you reach out to the speakers when we do our break so you can find out more about them, how to get in touch with them, and how you can indeed assist them. So we're going to roll right into the next discussion. I'm going to invite... This is going to be a fun one, right? So it's sharing community voices. So this is the storytelling session I've been waiting for. So I am going to invite our moderator, Dr. Elena Jackson, to join me. She has a professional background in finance and urban planning and a consulting and research background in local economic development, social enterprise, employee-owned cooperative. Her experience spans 20 years to create, oh my gosh, I need some coffee. Or maybe I need some wine. Sorry. She has lived and worked in various countries, including Germany, France, Brazil, and Mexico, providing cross-cultural management and strategic training. During her graduate studies at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, where's Kim? He focused on local economic development models, stabilization and growth of industrial and occupational clusters, and strategic planning of employee-owned businesses and social enterprises. I'm also going to invite her guests to have this conversation. Madhu Doumbia, Gregoire Eugene Lewis, Mamba Hamasi, and Frida Kanani. And if I butchered your name, tell me in private. Do not do that in public. You will make me cry. So we're going to invite the guests to come down so we can start this great storytelling session. Do we need another chair, or are we all set? We have a chair down here, and I can hand my mic to the speaker.
Thank you for joining us for this session. I am Dr. Elena Jackson, the Managing Director at Global Detroit, and we're really excited to hear everybody's stories. We know, being who we are, that the stories drive community, drive relationships, and drive work, even in business. All business is relationships. And a lot of times it begins with our individual stories. A little bit about my story. I am from Detroit, born and raised, and my parents gave me the illusion of choice. They said to me, which language do you want to learn? It didn't occur to me that there really wasn't a choice to learn a language or not. I was so excited with the idea of choice that I picked a language. I picked Spanish. And
I'm sorry. Just as a reminder, and I know on my fault, when we speak a little bit, she can't hear me. Speak a little bit slower because we're actually translating.
oh, there's a translator, okay.
And we're moving too fast, so we're translating what they're not understanding.
Okay, I'll speak slower, thank you. So growing up in Detroit, my parents gave me this illusion of choice. They asked me which language did I want to learn. I didn't realize at the time that they weren't giving me a choice to either learn a language or not. And I was so excited to have a choice that I immediately chose a language interested to me. I chose Spanish, and then later I chose German. And those choices eventually led me to a life abroad. I lived in about 8 different countries. And what I learned in living abroad was that the life I had been living in the United States was not a foregone conclusion, that there are systems and lifestyles in other places, that there were other choices that I hadn't been aware of, that there were other ways of doing and being that I knew nothing about. I learned about inclusive healthcare in Germany. I learned about inclusive education living in Costa Rica. I learned about inclusive business practices living in Brazil. I learned about inclusive housing practices living in Mexico. And I knew that I needed to learn more about the world, and I needed to bring my part, do my part to bring more of the world into Detroit. And so I came home. And so I learned a lot through my stories, and today I'm inviting you to learn a lot from the stories of the panelists we have with us, because in these stories are the lessons we have to create the tomorrow that we want. None of what we're experiencing is a foregone conclusion. We have choices, not just the illusion of choice. Okay? So thank you for sharing your stories today. I'm going to get started with Mamba because I know him. And that makes it a little bit easier for me. Mamba, if you could share a bit about yourself and the main reason you decided to leave your home country and come here.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Mamba Hamisi. I was born and raised in Burundi, north of Bujumbura. I came to Detroit November 2015. At that time, I was joining my wife. Was the reason why we all have to come to Detroit to seek asylum. She was a human rights activist in Burundi, and she got in trouble because she was working to try to hold accountable the government that was not allow kids to go to school. In Burundi, we have this law that kids who doesn't have two parents, they cannot be enrolled in school. So one of the village that was had a big problem, kid was not going to school because a lot of women in that region was raped by local government and the police. So the woman or mom was afraid to be oppressed by those kids. When they send them to school, they're going to ask them who they dad, so they have to keep them at home. That's one of the reason why, and Nadia was working on that, so the government can waive that law so the kid can go to school. And then she was in trouble, so she has come to Detroit. I stayed home. I came to Detroit at that time for the first time in living Freedom House, Detroit. That was the reason why. And everything was new for me. I didn't speak English at that time. You know, as you can imagine, the weather was so cold here, so I have to start over. At the same time, so my background is in business. I work as a business sales and marketing manager for more than 8 years. So I went to school for business. I came to Detroit. I couldn't get a job. And I have to find my way to start it. And then we didn't have asylum at that time. So the only way was either to go back to school to get the equivalent degree or to start a business. From the program that was in Detroit, still in Detroit, with Prosperous Detroit. So Prosperous Detroit had a program to help people who live at Freedom House, to train them to start businesses. That is how I was introduced, and then I had an idea to start a business.
Thank you for sharing your journey to the United States. Frida, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet everyone.
If you could share, what influenced your decision to move to the United States in general, and more specifically to Michigan?
Why?
What influenced that decision? What brought you here to Michigan?
Okay, so my name is Frida Kanini. I'm originally from Kenya in East Africa. I think I'm an immigrant, so I know there's little differences between immigrants, refugees, and other ways we come here. So I came here as an immigrant. I come from a single mom home. My mother was taking care of all of us, plus my extended family. And so this opportunity came to come to America. As you know, most people just know if you go to America, all your problems have been solved. You are coming here and your life back home will be perfect. You send a lot of money and everybody is going to be happy. So this was like, I didn't even have time to think what the opportunity was. My mom was like, we are packing bags and you are leaving. And I came here as a cultural exchange, and I was at Disney. And you know, when you come on a visa, I think if you're in the room and you understand that there are no pathways to getting from the visa you have to anything else. So the journey is very complicated. It's a very also personal, conflicting story when we talk in rooms in America. So for me, I came as an immigrant, and when I was in Florida, I this, you know, where is the next thing? You are making 10 plans of how you will move from this to that, and they were very short. This day, your flight is booked, you are going to leave. So sometimes people would escape from the program and run and disappear to something else. So those are kind of the steps, but in the process I left, I went and moved to UK, and then I came back to the US. And as you know, in the process, you find friends or families that you know in another state, and they tell you, this is not so bad. You can move here. We have some many communities that you can connect with, and we can help each other, and when you arrive, sometimes it's not like that. So it's a lot, and somebody is not really necessarily able to take on your burden of your immigration journey, what's going on. And while I was in that pipeline of waiting for my documentation, my mom got cancer and she died, and I wasn't able to be there to be with her. She was my everything. She made me the woman I am. She had given up all her life for us. And at the same time, I lost my uncle, who was my father, and I lost my grandma. So I lost all the adults. And to find my way, it took 12 years to get that documentation. And at that time, I had lost 3 adults who are my everything. And I was left alone with my siblings that I took care of for years. 7 years old. So that's a little bit of my beginning of coming here and what made me become who I am today and why I fight so hard for people like me who might not have a voice when it comes to either immigration or refugee issues or even adopted kids who feel alone when they get here.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Gracie, you've lived in several places in the United States. I'm excited that Detroit is your favorite. We're not letting you go. Of all the places you've lived, what brought you here? Why have you settled here and made a life here?
I don't need a mic, do I? Oh my God. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So like Regine said, most of the Haitian population goes to Miami. Well, the second generation. The first wave was, of course, New York, Canada, and Paris. And then the second wave, which when you hear the term boat people, would refer to Miami. So my vacation to Miami, I want to go back to the first question because it brings us here. My vacation to Miami when I was 8 years old that's the concept I had, was that I was going on a vacation. I come from a family of 10 brothers and sisters. So, and I remember how they dressed me all white, you know, and we're so excited because you're going to America, right? And you felt like, okay, yay. But I didn't even say the proper goodbye because I thought I was going back, right? And so till this day, there's brothers and sisters that I have not seen because of the, I don't want to cry, because I don't try to think about it, because we don't think about the trauma of, especially if you're a child of a parent that's here and they've been sending money back and they're working to get you, to bring you, but the child doesn't understand that. And so when you get here, though, there's this darkness that falls over you because you left everyone and everything that was familiar there. Yes, I've since adjusted and not call it a kidnapping anymore. But the reality is my dad was a U.S. citizen when he brought us to the United States. But because my dad has elementary education, and that's probably what is going to happen to some of the folks that come here, he, of course, went and got a lawyer. And the lawyer, no one ever told my dad that we could have gotten our green card and become citizens within 3 years. So we didn't end up getting our papers, as you say, until the Haitian-Cuban Act passed. And I was in high school. And I could have gotten it when I stepped in here in elementary school. So how I got here is what Regine said, is I didn't want to stay in Miami. It took a long time to get to Florida State, which opened my journey that I didn't have to stay in Miami. So I was always pursuing something else. I didn't know what the else was, but I knew that I wanted more for my family than the story that was written about us. And so I was always in the pursuit, and I knew the key was education. You know, for Haitian households, it's l'école, l'église, la caille. And so in the pursuit of that, I graduated with my MFA in Baltimore. And my professor sent this little email. Here's an opportunity. I know you don't want it, share it with your network. But I had just graduated, so I applied and not tell a single soul. I didn't tell anybody. And so when I got the opportunity, which was for work, to come to Detroit, to work with Global Detroit, I knew no one. When I said no one, I know no one. I move in places with my suitcase and just show up and figure it out. And so that's how I got here. And a 2-year fellowship turned into 9 years, which is a shock because that's how long I was in Miami.
And we're not letting you go. We're not giving you back. Brother Lewis. Okay, this is my first time meeting Brother Lewis, so I was making an educated guess. If you could tell us a bit about your migration journey to Michigan and what brought you here.
So, can everyone hear me? So I'm a little bit different. I am first generation Haitian that lives here. My mother was on a vacation that wouldn't allow her to go back to Haiti because she ran her mouth too much. And the government said, you might, can you hear me? Can you guys hear?
Keep it close.
Okay, so my mother talked too much. And so when she had to go on vacation, and she was very upset that she had to come, she couldn't go back. My biological father worked in import-export, so the dry, wet foot concept came from my dad for a lot of Haitians coming to America. Their relationship didn't last long because he has 32 children.
3-2? 3-2?
Yeah,
Okay, just checking.
And so my stepfather lived in the Bahamas for 20 years. He's Haitian also. He lived in the Bahamas for 20 years. Long, crazy story, but ends up gets to Miami he gets to Miami in the 70s, and then he says, "Oh, this is just another Bahamas. I'm leaving." So him and 13 Haitian guys packed up and said, "We're gonna go to Detroit, and we're gonna work in the automotive industry." They came in the summer. I think he was the only one that lasted to December, because we all went back to Miami. So in the mid-'80s, my mother got remarried to my stepdad, who they both had a relationship when they were younger and was all in love, but he left and blah, 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 blah. And 30 years later, they get married. And they've been married for like almost 40 years now.
Wow.
So that was my introduction to leaving Miami and then coming here and then having to take English classes, believe it or not, because I had a Floridian accent and they thought I didn't speak English well. So that's just a whole nother interesting situation. And I'll stop there.
Okay, we all want to hear about your 31 brothers and sisters. We'll save that for lunchtime and then the happy hour. We'll need time for that. Is Madhu, is that how to correctly say your name? And you're, I think, the youngest up here. God bless you. Tell us about your journey to the U.S.
Okay, quick question. How old do you guys think I am?
17.
17.
Oh, that was a good
So,
guess.
mine's take a climax. I didn't choose to come here. I was born here. Yeah. My parents came from New York and came to Flint, Michigan in 1998. And they moved to Detroit, Michigan a little around that time. So I have 4 siblings. My eldest brother is born back home. My 2 sisters are born in New York, and my other sister and I are born in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm the last born. I was born in Detroit, Michigan in 2007. So didn't migrate, but I hear the story, so kind of the same thing, you know? Yeah.
Well, we all have our stories. The thing that you do for Black folks, when you're guessing an age, you go low. You just go as low as you can go. And it worked this time. So I'm going to throw some questions out there, and whomever would like to pick up the question and run with it, go for it. What were your first impressions of this country? And did it live up to your expectations?
I'll start, right? Yeah, I was, first of all, I was shocked, how country is big, how everything is running so fast. And then again, I was coming from Burundi. For some reason, we still have this idea that, as you say, Freda, that if you come to United States, everything back home, family is gonna be great. So I was the one who was supporting my family when I was leaving Burundi, and then get to Detroit. I didn't have money. I had only $300 in my pocket, and then have to start over. So every time I was calling my parents, my siblings back home, they were throwing problems over problems over problems to me. It's like I have to solve them. I don't have a job. It's like, oh no, you're in America. How come? So they didn't understand that. So I have to block and to not talking to my family for 1 year.
Oh, wow.
And because I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna survive in this country, and then how I have to, I'm joining my family, I have to start over. So I didn't want that. So I have to stop. I remember after my first work, the check that I got that Friday, coming from work to go to cash the check, I called my mom for the first time after 1 year and 2 months. And I was crying. It's like, yeah, tell me, how are you doing? And then surprisingly, I just miss you. Is everything okay? Yes. And I was like, you know what? Go to Western Union. I sent some money. I was feeling relieved. That was my American dream, honestly. That's first check. That's I was like, okay, now, finally, I'm in America. Yeah. So that is my experience. But I was so shocked how nobody told. I wish someone told me that it's this hard, it's tough, it's not easy. I wish someone told me that. I wish someone showed me the photo of the real job before I came, because unfortunately we don't show those photos. We only show the good ones, but we don't show the hard work. And then since then, I've been taking that as a responsibility, that I have to tell the real story to everyone. It's possible, but it's not easy. Yeah.
You know where else I find that to be true? Marriage. Everybody was so excited when I said I was getting married, and none of the elders told me the truth. And I'm still upset. Although I've been happily married for 18 years, if you should meet my husband, let him know I said so. And I remind him daily that he's the happiest married man in the country. And if you meet him, he better say so. Mamba makes me wonder, what are some of the greater, not necessarily the greatest, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, challenges you've experienced either in your own migration journey or being a part of somebody else's, but also what are some of the greater sources of joy that you've experienced? For example, I'm happy that you were born here because we were both born here. That makes me feel a kindred spirit. That brings me a smile. Would anybody like to share either a greater challenge or a greater joy associated with their journey? Frida?
I think it's hard. Sometimes we are in survival mode for so long. You're really not seeing even good things because you're stuck in this space. As again, I speak from an immigrant side of things, because one of the things obviously is documentation. And of course, besides that, if you're a refugee, you have other challenges that are really similar but different. So one of the things is that we are so disconnected when we get here, and that actually, again, goes to back where I have been working so hard to bring a space that makes people feel safe to even open up. So a lot of times for me, I think most people stay in silent suffering, and you're not talking to anybody, you are really struggling. You are surrounded by so many people, but you can't tell them what you're going through. I remember when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, everybody was like, oh, are you gonna go home? Are you gonna go spend time with her? And I'm thinking, I can't. I want to go, but I'm the main source of income to support her. But at the same time, I wanna be there, drop her to the doctors. And it's a very confusing space. So you feel really alone even when you have people around you. And also it's a stigma around paperwork. And I think also we don't even understand each other's journey, because sometimes I used to wish, man, I wish somebody adopted me so that it could have been easier. But if you talk to another person who came here through that process, they have such challenges as well. So we are really needing to be in a room together, find that platform that helps us understand our challenges of how we come here with the different expectations and they are not the same. And now being able to connect to the support system to help you get out of that difficult space. And I think that's very, very hard to go through every day. People are seated with you and they're thinking, because we are very tough as Africans, we don't really crumble because that's how we were raised. You are told to be strong. My mom was like the strongest woman I've ever known, and she never demonstrated fear or worry, so that's what I was emulating. I have to make it work, even when at my job I'm having like real mental breakdown and I have to work because so many people are expecting me to send money. I have to pay school fees for all the siblings, help change their lives. So I think you live in that space for so long, and it's a really difficult space to be in, and not even knowing what tomorrow will look like, because sometimes you're undercover and nobody knows what will happen. So that's one of the biggest challenge. Not to mention, of course, language barrier, culture barrier, systemic barriers. So even when we are being discriminated, a few times we don't even notice it because it's the least of my worry at that point. I'm so focused on how am I going to get my paperwork renewed, or when am I sending money to my mom? So I think that always is, you are fighting so many challenges that you don't know even when you're going through discrimination. You just keep pushing through. Thank you.
Part of what I hear in that, oh, you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say.
Oh, go for it.
So it's interesting because so I am, like I said, I'm first generation, so I was born in Miami. But being an immigrant child, the children of immigrants, especially when they move away from all of the people that look and talk and act like you. So to come to Detroit, I'm not Detroit enough because I'm not American and they know it. And then I'm not Haitian enough. So as I grow up, I'm at my grandfather's funeral. No, I'm at my grandmother's funeral, and they're like, "Why is he?" They're saying it in Creole. They don't think I understand. Why is he sitting in the front row? Those Americans, they think they can do whatever they want. And I turn around and I tell them, "But this is my grandmother in Creole," and then they apologize. So it's a shift of trying to find your people when you have no people. And so if you have immigrant friends and family, like make sure that they take their children and they make sure they're a part of the community and get to be raised and have those lifelong friends within your community, because your kids will miss out.
Can I speak to the joy?
Sure, absolutely.
Because I know we know all of the challenges, and all immigrant stories are not monolithic. For me, as much as I still call it the kidnapping, in Haiti, where my family started, I would never be here. So my dad bringing us to the United States, as challenging as it was for our family, it gave us an opportunity that we would have not had in Haiti, because Haiti, as you know, is a very class-based country, and opportunities are sometimes rare. And we're from the country, you know, Andeo. And so in the time my mom was raised, as a matter of fact, they were preventing the girls from going to school in the village that she lived in. And then it also, so it was escaping in a way for my father to go to the Bahamas and then make themselves come here. And the one thing I would say is people like Sadie and Sophia saved my family because they didn't know how to navigate, right? My dad spoke no English, could not read or write really, but having those people, those blessings that you find in strategic places was the one that was able to tell my dad, you could go ahead and give your tax return so we could fill out this financial aid so she can get a scholarship to go to college. Because those are things that we didn't have to. As a matter of fact, my dad worked 3 jobs to put us to private school when we first got here, because that was the culture in Haiti. So he thought he had to do it here. When somebody finally told him, you know, there's a super great school right down the street that was for free. And that helped us so much because then he could use his money for something else. So yes, it is hard. It is very challenging. But for some of us who come from the challenges at home, this is also a safety net that help us move our families out of poverty.
I want to add something very quickly. I think everything that I'm hearing here is exactly this. We are so in confusion with joy, happiness, stress, sadness. So at the end of the day, we don't even know what is going on. So until you get your paper, you're still succeeding on the other side. People see you smiling, but they cannot relate, they cannot understand what is going on in your head, because you are rushing to make sure there is a lot of things that I cannot do in this country that somebody else can do.
Yeah.
So I have to be on my edges to everything. So it's very confusing.
Yeah, my hope is that we hear that and we connect to that in our own individual way, and it allows us to be more empathetic towards each other. Final question as we have to wrap up. So take either of these questions. What are your hopes and dreams for your future in this country? Or, given what we've shared about the spectrum of struggle and joy, what do you need from your community to feel safe and welcome? So, hopes, welcoming.
I will be quick. I want first to shout out to members of the community here who do so much work, because I think our pain makes us do what we do. And I know many people in this room, especially some of the community leaders that I can see in this room from the West Side. I can see Sylvia, I can see Myra, I can see my staff member who are here like Amani. I see Michael, I see Betty, I see all of you in this room, Akindile, and so many people who have taken that pain and started to do something about the things. I'm the founder of an organization called A Glimpse of Africa, and we really bring Africans together in West Michigan, and we build the space to feel at home, away from home, and provide resources that I never had. And the people coming after me are having those options to make their navigation and their lives a little bit one step ahead from where I started. So I think that's my hope, is that we can build that space that another person coming after us is not going to struggle as we struggled. And I feel like as we do it, let's help each other, support each other, and do what's the best thing that will make us be stronger and better. I know in the Latino communities, there is some immunity sometimes that has been made stable and clear, that you're not just going to be told you're not getting a scholarship because you don't have papers. They have built that, so we can do that. And I know that that is the best we can ever do, because I wish I came when so many systems were created, but I feel like what I'm doing and others are doing, building that pathway for others, even when you can't give somebody that physical paper or give them everything they need, at least you can give them that safe space and a home they can feel. So that's what I've been personally thinking is the best I can give to my community, and I think that that is one gift we can take away from others when they come after us. And I hope that everybody in the room can celebrate that and take it because it's the most positive thing that we can have for each other. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing your part to create an enabling environment for that. Gracie? The questions are, what are your hopes for yourself and your future in this country, given your journey, or given that spectrum of challenge to joy, what do you need to feel more welcomed in your community?
I echo what you say in regards to passing it forward. The Global Detroit, where I used to work, used that word trusted connector. And I think that's what we are, the ones who made it, right? And it's not to start an organization. It's to, if it's just one person, you're able to help them navigate the system. Because one of the biggest thing, and I think Regine says it, especially for immigrants who are coming here with young people, is learning how to navigate the school system. Because it is a challenge. It is different from what we know. And we know for a fact, and that's what I did in New York, a lot of immigrant parents don't participate because they're intimidated, there's the language barrier, they don't understand. And when you go to the office to try to get some information, they look at you like, you know, and they make you feel a certain way, and you know we're so prideful. You know, we don't want to be or embarrassed or whatever, so we shy away. We let them bully us out. But I want to tell you, if you know of a person, get involved and start with the school system, because it's going to change the trajectory of your child's life, and they are entitled to give you someone to translate. So advocate for yourself, and if you can't, find that person, that connector in your community to help you advocate, because we know some of the challenges you're talking about is real, but if we don't know a person that can walk with us like a Sophia or Sadie, our children end up suffering in silence, and we suffer in silence. But know that you have somebody. If you could serve that role to a new immigrant, it seems like Hamtramck's gonna be the Haitian place since they found out I have a space over there. So if you can serve that role for somebody, do it. You don't need to start an organization, but you can help one person along.
Thank you, Mamba.
Yeah, I think that was black. I didn't know that before. I thought I was Jamaican. So now that we live in the United States, we need to remember that collectively we are black. We need to support each other, and we need to be there for each other. With that being said, thank you again for the first part of this program. We have lunch outside for you guys to participate. And then we have the sessions in the afternoon, the breakout sessions in the afternoon.
The breakout session in the afternoon are all going to be on the other side of the room. So some are downstairs, some are upstairs, but we are going to let you know where you want to go and who you want to go talk to. So you guys know how we do a lot of things last minute. How I send you guys a link and I say register, so I can make sure you get some food. And how my people were like, I'm not registering. So when you go to grab your lunch, give some grace to the volunteers, because we try to grab a sheet and make sure that everybody's dietary restriction is respected. A lot of people did not choose plant-based, so if you are one of those and there was not your name and there was no extra plant, please don't be mad, Because I have my kids in there. Half of them speak English, half don't. They are very scared of y'all. So be nice. You know, when you're hungry, right? So be nice to them, and we're gonna all work it out. But I really want to say thank you. I really want to say thank you because I'm gonna tell the story. I'm gonna tell the story. Ajara. No, because me and Ajara, we know each other now 20 years, right? I've been bothering her, and she, within 5 years of knowing each other, she was like, all your immigration stuff, I'll say it. And I kept going. Yesterday, we were talking about her house, and I said, my immigration stuff. She said, yes, your immigration stuff is still doing good. So when I see her, I start smiling because it's how long we have been in the space. It's how long we have been trying to say we exist. And for you guys to be here to make it a reality for me, y'all don't even know. And for it to happen at this time, where the whole conversation of where we're going is being decided in Michigan, and where some people decided that we were going to be a problem or not a problem, for you guys to take this space and be here, I am thankful. Let's continue doing this, and let's continue making this state a better state for all of us. So let's go to lunch.
1:30? Okay, so the breakout session.
Yes.
Okay. So the breakout sessions are going to start right at 1:30. We have breakout one is the repowering economic opportunities and workforce integration. We have breakout two, meeting educational challenges and strengthening community support. And breakout three, focusing on health and wellness. Once you grab your food, go out and grab your food and you're ready to go to your session, please check with the volunteers that are out there to let you know whether you're upstairs or downstairs and what room you're in. Thanks to Irie Bites for preparing the food for us today. We hope you enjoy it. Get up, head on out, grab your food. Make sure you network while you're out there. We're here to meet and support each other.
So I can send, because I need